Hey guys, welcome back to this channel. Thank you for coming back. Today I will be sharing a little bit of history with you about the company that made my car, my toy that I've been having for over 35 years. And we shared a little bit about that in the first video that I made about this toy, and I'll be putting the video at the end of this video. So if you haven't seen that one, please skip to the end, click the video on, watch it, and then come back to this one, and you'll be able to enjoy it more. It was very, very difficult to dig up any history about the company that made this toy. And it was even harder to find my toy on the internet because, as you guys seen in the first video, some parts of this toy will have to be renewed. So we went on the internet to try to find new parts, or at least find new toys that are similar. Well, you guys know what I mean, but I mean similar toys that I can use to take parts of. But it was a hell of a job, mainly because people are using all kind of different names while sharing their vintage toys on the internet. And it becomes very confusing, and it's just chaos. So this company started in 1971, and although it's now known under the name Dickie Toys, that's not the name it has always had. And I'm sharing with you what you see right now is a bit of history about their company. As you can see, there is a lot going on. So this is a company that has been through a lot. So let's just go through some of their history, bits and pieces, see what we can find. Like I said, this company was founded in 1971 under the name Sauerborn and Stübinger, and it was located in West Germany. And this is a toy, just an example from the same year that I was able to find, just to give you guys an idea how they started and what kind of toys were they making. And we can all say that they were way ahead of their time. What you see here is an actual RC, Mercedes toy car. See, you see the remote controller is the red piece, and then it's connected through a cable to the actual toy. So yeah, so it's not like the remote controller as we know it today, but it was definitely for that time. So these are guys that are genius and way ahead of their time. And I think I can fairly say that this is probably the first, if not the only company in that era that was making these kind of complex toys, if you will, here in Europe, and maybe in the world at that point. I'm not really sure. I mean, when it comes to this kind of categories. So then somewhere between 1971 and 1978, they decided to rebrand themselves. So they came up, no, they didn't rebrand themselves. They decided to branch out. So they had a factory built in Hong Kong where they would actually have their toys made. So in West Germany, the toy designers will come up with a toy design, they will send it to Hong Kong, and Hong Kong was the factory where the toy was actually made, you know. So that's where you had the machine and a guy that was actually making this toy. So the Dickie Toys Hong Kong is not a brand, has never been. It's just the manufacturer, the place where the toys were made. So in 1984, they rebranded themselves, and they went with two names, which is really confusing, but that's what this company decided to go for. So they went with Dickie Spielzeug, which means Dickie's toys in German. It's more like, it sounds a lot like Dutch. In Dutch, toys is Speelgoed. In German, it's Spielzeug. So they went with two names, two versions of the brand. Dickie Spielzeug, which was supposed to be making toys only for Germany, in the German language. That's why it's called Dickie Spielzeug, because back then people were not really easy with languages. I think that's what I was able to gather. So just to make sure that the Germans understood what kind of toys they were buying, and they were getting the manuals in German, they had the Dickie Spielzeug, which made toys for the German audience in Germany, and then for the international audience, which obviously needed a different language, mainly English, you know, the common language. So they had to go with a different version, and that was the Dickie Toys. As you will see later on in this slideshow, you will not be able to find any toys from that era under the brand Dickie Toys, the international version name. all the toys, all the vintage goodness that you will find from this company from the 80s, and I think even in the 90s, you will always find them under the brand name Dickie Spielzeug, which is ironic because that was only to be limited to the German audience. So just to give you an idea, these are a couple of what Dickie Spielzeug made in the 80s. We have here the Ford Escort XR3. And that one was brought out under the flag of Dickie Spielzeug. Same thing goes for the picture on the right, the Overland. And that's the toy that I have. Also brought out by Dickie Spielzeug. And if you look carefully, you'll see a different name highlighted. You know, almost as big or as big as Dickie Spielzeug, which is weird because normally you only see the main brand in a huge font and then all the rest is somewhat smaller. But now we see on this boxing, we see a different name that insisted to be as big, and that's the name Taiyo. And that confused me because I didn't know at this point when I was looking at these packages, I didn't know whether to stick with Dickie Spielzeug as the brand or Taiyo, or so I started to do some digging up some info about the Taiyo. I couldn't find a thing in combination with Dickie Spielzeug, not even on their website, not even on their official history website. There's just not one word about this. So I went further on and started searching via Google, and this is what I found. I'm sorry, I'm going too fast. Yeah. Taiyo Singapore. Those are the words that I used to do a little bit of digging. Why Singapore? Because the car that I have, which is on the right, my toy that started this whole video thing, in this case, has on the bottom that it was made in Singapore. So I searched, I googled Taiyo in combination with Singapore, and I stumbled upon a website of a company called Taiyo, which is still in existence, and it is located in Singapore. But by now they also have branched out, so they have locations all over Asia, but there is one in Singapore, so that's at least a lead that I could follow. And this is what they have on their website. This is what they say, what they're doing. We specialized in manufacturing various plastic products using double-colored plastic injection molding, printing, spray painting, laser, and all that. So right away I knew that this is the Taiyo that we see on the boxes of Dickie Spielzeug. So Taiyo is nothing more than a factory where the toys are actually made. But for some reason they insisted that their name should be on the packaging also. Maybe there was some good financial deal that they made. Maybe by this way they're getting advertisement and exposure, and they're giving a good price to Dickie Toys, Dickie Spielzeug to actually make their toys. I don't know, but let's just clear that one up. Taiyo is not a toy brand. It's the manufacturer. That's what you see when you see made by in China or made by Singapore or made by. That means the actual location of the factory, what it was. And Taiyo is nothing more than that. It's not a brand, and at least not in the beginning. In the beginning, it was not a brand. So when we're talking about my toy that you see here, the Overland, this one was brought out by Dickie Spielzeug and manufactured by Taiyo. So in the beginning, the early hours of their cooperation, Taiyo was not a brand. It was just a factory. But they must have thought that, what Dickie Spielzeug was doing was a good income model, because I started to see a switch. I started to see that Taiyo was actually trying to compete with Dickie Spielzeug. Started to see that Taiyo was actually started to bring out toys under that name. As we will see later on in this slideshow. So, as you can see here, what I have here is just a collection of some toys from from the 80s. The cooperation between Taiyo and Dickie Spielzeug. That's what you see here. So we have the Renegade, we have the Toyota Land Cruiser, we have the Jet Hopper. What else? The Porsche. And you will find on most of these products, most of these toys, you'll find both names, the Dickie Spielzeug and the Taiyo. Not on the Renegade though. I don't think on the Renegade you won't see Taiyo, and on the Toyota Land Cruiser, from what I have here, and I can't, I don't have these toys obviously, so I just have to go by the pictures. But so we have the Renegade that's has only the Dickie Spielzeug on it and the Toyota Land Cruiser. And then at some point later on, they must have decided that I don't know, for some reason the name Taiyo should be on the packaging also. What we see here, like with the jet hopper, the what is it, the Porsche. So these are all from the 80s, from what I was able to gather. Just don't quote me on it. And they also made some old timers, like the ones that you see here. So they were how do you say that? Making toy cars was the main thing. I guess that's what I'm trying to say here. But that was not the only thing they were doing. For example, we see here this American Rider, which was not a car, was a motorcycle. Again, also brought by the Dickie Spielzeug, which is, like I said, it's ironic because Dickie Spielzeug was meant to be limited within Germany, but it's the only thing that you can find, even international, even by sellers on eBay. And just to give you an idea, and to show you that they were also making different kind of toys, I insert this in here too, the locomotive, which is obviously for a different age group, and again brought out by Dickie Spielzeug, and it doesn't have Taiyo on it. So yes, so the early hours of the Dickie Spielzeug was not like some sort of cooperation with Taiyo. There was a clear hierarchy. Dickie Spielzeug demanded, and Taiyo, executed whatever demands they had. So as soon as I started to really get into this, to start digging even deeper, and finding more and more stuff, more and more toys, and more packages, pictures of it at least, I started to remember that there is something else going on that's confusing me, because my Overland Wrangler or Jeep, whatever you want to call it, that I had was sent to me by my father. He was living here in Holland, where I'm still living right now. But back then I was living in North Africa, in Morocco, where I was born and grown up. And the one that he sent me did not look as boring as the packaging on the left. The packaging on the left that has Dickie Spielzeug and Taiyo on it is mainly white. Almost no creativity at all. And the one on the right is not an actual box. That's a box that I made. I put this together to help you guys get an idea of how my box looked like. It had this rocky mountainy area going on, and it was just beautiful, and I loved it. And I know for fact that mine looked different because I was very, very careful with all my toys. As a child, I was not like the child you see in Toy Story movie. I took very good care of my toys, and I loved them, and I'd give them love and make sure no one breaks them, they're not in the way, and I always tried to put them back in the box that they came in. So I know for a fact that my box looked different. So I started doing some more research, and lo and behold, yes, it's crazy, but it's true. It's very confusing, very weird. I've never seen this in a toy line. But yes, the same toy came in 2 boxes. So, for example, you have this Porsche here. On the left, you see that now Taiyo is competing with his boss, his former boss. Well, not really, because not in that way, in the classic way of boss, but you know what I mean. They were just this factory that was receiving orders from Dickie Spielzeug, and they made toys for them. But now they're competing. But it's not really competing. It's more like they're actually buying the design from Dickie Spielzeug. So they buy the design, they buy the right for it, and then they bring it under their own name. Why would they do that? You might be asking yourself, well, it's financially better for Taiyo than it is for Dickie Spielzeug, because Taiyo is the one that actually makes the toy. So the only thing they need to do is buy the design. And maybe that gave some sort of a financial discount to Dickie Spielzeug because they went along with it. So yes, you will see within the Dickie Spielzeug, history of toys, you'll see the same toy brought out in two different packaging. One on the right is the Porsche brought out under the brand name Dickie Spielzeug and Taiyo on it, as you can see on the box. But on the left we have the same toy in a different box, and it has only Taiyo on it. So this is the first thing that we need to clear up, because I've seen a lot of confusing titles by many of you guys that are sharing their Dickie Spielzeug vintage stuff on the internet. So please stand still and do a little bit of research, because otherwise we will be confusing each other, and it's gonna be one big chaos. Yeah, and it's not the only example that I found. I also found this Willys Overland. So under the brand name Dickie Spielzeug, it was called Willys Overland, but then under the brand name Taiyo, at this point, it's called the Auto Willy Challenger. It's the same one, as you can see. It's the same 100% a clone of each other, as you can see. Only Dickie Spielzeug is still bound to use Dickie Spielzeug and Taiyo on their boxing, on their box, on their packaging, and the Taiyo has only their name on it. So this is a very clear proof that Taiyo actually paid for the design. That's why they're not obligated anymore. And I think there was some sort of a deal between them, smitten. So then I started doing a little bit of research about Taiyo. What is this Taiyo? Because I had a conclusion, but I didn't know if that was true. And yes, it is true, you guys. Taiyo is nowadays, they went back. I haven't been able to find any new Taiyo stuff made recently. So I think what Taiyo did is that they tried the toy business, but then they went back to the actual core that they have always been doing, which is just being a factory, manufacturing what others have designed. And they have locations everywhere in Asia, also in Singapore, as you can see here in the middle of the screen. So that only confirmed to me that yes, my conclusion is right, because my toy again has made in Singapore on the bottom. But when you try to look up anything about made in Singapore or any factory Singapore in combination with Dickie Spielzeug or Dickie Toys, as they're now called, you won't find anything at all. You won't get any hit. So it means they're not cooperating anymore. But both do exist separate from each other. They do exist. So yeah, so they're even in Malaysia, in Thailand, in China, and all that. And this is what they're doing. Yes, it's a clear proof that this Taiyo must be the one that was cooperating with Dickie Spielzeug. This is what they're doing. Coloring plastic, making molds, spraying paint, and all that. It's them. And I just wanted last proof that they have been cooperating with Dickie Spielzeug at some point. So I went to their major customer list. Now, this says the major customer list, not all the customers, but I couldn't find Dickie Spielzeug on this list, short list, not even Dickie Toys. So I went back to Dickie Toys and I tried to look up some recent toys that they have been making, and lo and behold, this is the rebranding. By the way, this packaging that you will see here will only happen in the 2000s. But I'm ahead of myself in this little slideshow. But just to give you guys a proof, since we're now talking about this at this moment, just to give you guys a proof, to prove it even further, the new packaging does not have Taiyo on it. The new packaging for the toys, for the Dickie Toys, does not have the Taiyo on it. Just Dickie Toys, which means there is no cooperation anymore. And that's why Taiyo does not mention Dickie Toys on their website. Eventually, the Dickie Toys will branch out and become really big, and they're now having headquarters in Hong Kong, in France, and even in North America. So, yeah, so on this slide, what does the slide say? Oh yeah, the 1984, the company is renamed Dickie Toys. What I did is I told you in the slide before, let me go back to it. I told you about how in 1984 they decided to rename, to give the company two names, Dickie Spielzeug and Dickie Toys. Then I showed you some selection that was brought out under the name Dickie Spielzeug. And I was hoping to do the same with this different name, also from 1984. And that's why I made this slide. But I was not able to find anything from the 80s or even the 90s under the brand name, the international version of their name, Dickie Toys. So I won't be able to show you anything. All that I can show you are these very recent toys. And they all have Dickie Toys on the box, not the Dickie Spielzeug. So eventually they decided at some point to go with the international version of their company name and not with the German one. And again, they're still focusing heavily on these kind of toys, still on the big vehicles, the remote control vehicles. And still, even my toy is now coming back in different, somewhat redesigned toys, but you can still see the basis. See? And then it gets a little bit confusing again, because as you go down the history of this company, at some point you will find this text on their website. We were born in Germany in 1982. And I was like, huh? No, they didn't. You guys were founded in 1971. So what's the deal? Well, turned out that in, let me see, Simba. Let me go back, guys. Simba. The company's renamed Simba Toys. So yeah, so here, so in 1993, the boss Sauerborn had unfortunate a fatal accident, and he died in 1993. And the company was going through a little bit of a crisis, so it was took over by the Simba Toy Company, which still exists to this day. So that was in 1993. So if you start to do some research about the history of this company, the Dickie Toys, at some point you will find this, which is confusing, Simba Dickie. And on their website they say we were born in Germany in 1982. And it's like, no, you weren't. If this is still the same company, the Dickie Toys, the Dickie Spielzeug, you guys were founded in 1971. But no, this is the history of the Simba that took over Dickie Group in 1993. And they were founded in 1982. So then I started doing a little bit of research about this Simba. Who was this company to be able to take over such an iconic almost brand, the Dickie Spielzeug, the Dickie Toys? And I found out that the Simba Toy Company, are big themselves. They started out in 1982, and they've had some major hits. I mean, some major selling into the millions, as you can see here. And they also have a huge history. I mean, it's not as old as the Dickie Toys, but still. In the 80s, for example, they started doing this bear family, teddy bear family. And it says here, 1985, the first top seller, sales of the bear family exceeded 1 million. By 1987, the figure had reached 4.8 million. So this is the Simba, the one that took over the Dickie Toys. But the biggest hit must be the dress-up doll Steffi Love, which is competition of the Barbie doll in the US. So here in Europe, we had our own version of the Barbie doll, which is the Steffi Love, brought by this Simba toy line. They also brought out something creepy, maybe different, something different. Let's just leave it at that. A doll that, a pregnant doll. That's what I'm trying to say. A pregnant doll. You can have it pregnant or not by taking the belly off and taking the baby out. So, I don't know, guys, a little bit crazy. But this Simba was also big enough and impressive enough to actually impress Disney to give them the right to make Disney stuff, as you guys see here. And oh man, I would love to get these, to get my hand on these. I love DuckTales and, Darkwing Duck and everything Disney from the era and everything Disney in general. So this Simba toys got even bigger, and in 2001 it says Simba Toys receives an exclusive European license for manufacturing and marketing the dress-up dolls Disney princesses from Walt Disney. And so I looked them up because I couldn't see the name Simba on the packaging of these dolls. It only says Disney. So what happened here, ironically, which is very funny, is what happened between Dickie Spielzeug / Dickie Toys and Taiyo is now happening between Disney and Simba, the company that took over Dickie Toys. Yes, and the other irony is that it has Simba in its name, which was one of the major hits from Disney, The Lion King. But yeah, so although these were manufactured by Simba, the design is, of course, belongs to Disney. Exactly like the issue we had between Dickie Spielzeug and Taiyo. So now Disney gave them the right to actually make their own Disney princesses. Like Dickie Spielzeug gave Taiyo the right to make their own Dickie Spielzeug Wranglers and Jeeps and all that. So I was confused because I looked them up, I looked the dolls up, and I would only see Disney on the packaging and not Simba. But then I found out that Disney is on the back of the neck in small letters, and Simba Toys is on the back of the waist. So these dolls have both names on them. And this Simba, they do like Dickie Toys, they do all kind of different stuff, as you can see here, and under many different brands, and they also have rights that they bought from other big brands that gave them the right now to make their own versions of their toys, like what you see here, the ABC, Art Fun, Chi-Chi, Disney, special segment of the Frozen 2, Hello Kitty, which is huge in Asia and everywhere basically. So a lot of stuff, and Sam the fireman, which is huge in the UK. See, so by now they have earned the respect of all these companies that gave them the license to make their toys. See, so this is not just any company that took over the Dickie Toys. So anyway, back to Dickie Toys. Dickie Toys hasn't been, out of job. They continued growing and getting stronger and stronger. And in 1995, there was a contract signed between Formula One champion Michael Schumacher and Dickie Toys. And this is one of the toys that I found that came out from the contract. In 2008, so now we're continuing with the Dickie Toys. We're going back to the Dickie Toys and continuing with their history. So I did a little bit extra on the Simba just to tell you guys what kind of company took over this Dickie Toys. But they took the Dickie Toys over, but they kept the name. And it happens sometimes. Like now, we have Air France took over our national airline, the KLM, but KLM is still operating under this name because this name is a respected brand on itself, and Air France knows that. So anyway, so Dickie Toys, although now under the umbrella of Simba, is still operating under their old name, the Dickie Toys from the 1984. One of the two versions that they went by. In 2008, for the first time in the company's history, Dickie Toys secures a master toy license from Walt Disney. And this is what I found from that license, from that agreement, cooperation between Disney and Dickie Toys. This is some of the stuff that I found. Because in 2008, if I'm not wrong, WALL-E came out. Still great movie. I watched it with Mike only 2 days ago. Still very impressive movie, scary movie to see because so many things they predicted in the movie are seemingly coming out. Anyway, and I must tell you guys, I actually love their design. These Dickie Toys, I didn't know about them. I stumbled upon this now that I was making this research for this video, but I love their design of what they did with Wally. Look at that, it's just beautiful. In 2011, Dickie Toys is granted the exclusive RC licensing rights for Disney Pixar cars, and shortly afterwards breaks the million barrier with sales of the Lightning McQueen, as you can see here. And in 2012, Dickie Toys receives the Disney Product Award 2012, Product of the Year for the RC vehicle, Lightning McQueen. So, this is not like any company. This is a company that's been working hard and still earning respect. So in 2013, relaunch of the product and packaging range for RC vehicles. So they went back. So they started doing baby stuff, baby dolls, baby this, princesses, all that, this, that, blah, blah, other brands. And then they went back to the basis, the one that they started with. This is actually the basis for my toy, as you can see here, especially on the right. So they decided to now focus more on the Dickie Toys brand and the basis that they started with. You know, here, like what we started with telling you here, guys. All these RC vehicle Jeeps and Cruisers and Wranglers. That's what you see here in 2013. They decided to go back to that style. 2014, Dickie Toys is granted the license for the successful Fireman Sam TV series, which is a British, children's series, and it's big, and it's now, loved by many kids here in Europe too. And I'm saying Europe because UK does not want to belong to Europe anymore. No politics on this channel. But I love UK. It's a beautiful country and beautiful people. What else? So back to my Dickie Spielzeug toy from 1984. What am I saying here to make things even more confusing? This toy has written on the bottom, made in Singapore. So not in Germany nor Hong Kong. Yeah, that's what my toy has. This one that I'm showing you is what I've been holding on for 35 years. 35 years actually, yeah. But I lost it out of sight because I left it in Morocco, not knowing that we will never be able to go back to that house. My parents got divorced, and my father is always been this terrible man, this dragon, unfair, dominant, and so it was a very ugly thing. And he just opened our home, and he basically let anyone go into our rooms, trash our stuff. And so by accident, many years later, I was able to secretly go back to our home and try to find what's left of our stuff. I wasn't looking for anything. I was just looking for sentimental stuff. And I found this one somewhere, laying somewhere around outside the house. And it's always God's miracle that I was able to find it in the condition that it is. Because what I showed you in the first video, we didn't do anything about it. This is just and I even joke in the video that it still has North African dust on it. So anyway, so made in Singapore, not Hong Kong. And that's because where one of the locations of Taiyo was located, Singapore. So, little summary so far. So you have the Dickie Spielzeug, started out as Sauerborn and Stubinger, if I'm corrected. Let me see, let me go back. So they started out as Sauerborn and Stubinger, then they did some renaming, and they went from Sauerborn and Stubinger to Dickie Spielzeug / Dickie Toys. Dickie Spielzeug for Germany, Dickie Toys for international. Then they did a little bit of cooperation with Taiyo, so they also had Dickie Spielzeug Taiyo, also a brand, and the same toys were brought out under the name of Taiyo and Taiyo alone. So it is very confusing, and it does look alike. And if you do not have the packaging, you won't be able to tell apart which one is what or who. Then, to make things even worse, there is also not Taiyo but Taiyo, which also does the same thing, and there is a whole history about it on the Wikipedia. And they also focused for a huge part on RC vehicles toys. But this brand has nothing to do with these cars. But I did find a lot of confusion on the internet. People that, you know, shared their toys either because they want to sell them or because they just want to share it with the world. I'm sorry. And sometimes you see that they use the name Taiyo, which just because they do look like the vehicles from the Dickie Spielzeug, the Dickie Toys company. So what I'm trying to say, you guys, is that please focus. Go the extra mile. Do your digging, do your research, because that would be very helpful to us all, vintage toys lovers all over the world, because once we step on the internet, it means that we don't have any other means to find what we need. So we're trying on the internet, and if the internet is giving us misinformation, we will only be misguiding each other and away from the truth. So anyway, so this Taiyo was took over by Mattel, but this is an American thing. This is American chapter. But I had to share this with you here, guys, because Taiyo also got, like I said, into the RC model and the Disney, and sometimes their product really come close to the ones from the Dickie Spielzeug. What you see here are some of the products, vintage stuff, brought out by Taiyo. And I must say, it's beautiful. It looks beautiful, especially the X-Men stuff I would love to have. So, conclusion of this video. My last words. When you share your vintage toy with us all on the web, please make sure you know what brand and model and year it is. And if it's too much to research them, please find out at least what brand it is. Many toys sometimes look much alike and can confuse us. Before we know it, it's one big chaos, and we will be sending each other only in the wrong directions with misinformation. So, just to help you guys get a clear picture of how things can become very quickly confusing, I have here a basis for this Wrangler that you will see coming back in under different brands. It's still the same car. Look, we have the Dickie Spielzeug here, the green one, which is my toy. And it has the same reserve wheel on the back, but in this picture, it wasn't on there. It fell off, but it is on there. So trust me, it's the same thing. So here you see it again, the same thing. Here you see it again, that reserve wheel. See? It's the same basis model, only different paint job. You will see it brought out by Dickie Spielzeug / Taiyo. You will see it as here brought out only by Taiyo. You will see it brought out by Taiyo, but with different wheels, same car, different wheels and different size. You will also see it brought out by Tamiya. I don't know if I'm correcting that one correctly. The Wild Willie, which is a huge hit, especially in America. A huge hit, Wild Willie and Wild Willie 2. I'm showing you here Wild Willie 2. And then you see it brought out by Taiyo. Look, Taiyo and Dickie Spielzeug even use the same wheels. See? Exact same wheels. And Tamiya, the exact same wheels. So I can tell you for 100% fact that these three toys, this one, the green one, the Wild Willie, and the Taiyo, were made by Taiyo. Because the same elements we see. Anyway, guys, I went quickly through it because I do not want to turn this into a huge video, because what happens with these kind of videos, when you research toys and comparing toys, you'll start to throw names, and that will start to confuse you, and at some point you won't be able to hear or separate what is what from what. So I hope I did an okay job. I did not confuse you with all this name throwing, and I hope I inspired you guys, especially those of you that sometimes do not take the time to research what kind of toy they have before they share it with the world. I hope I inspired you guys that it's actually fun to do a little bit of digging about your toy. That only makes you appreciate your toy even more, love it even more, and respect the origin where it came from even more. That's definitely the case with me. So yes, I was determined to give my Dickie Spielzeug Taiyo Overland TLC, but now I'm even more determined, because this is a toy that came, this is a toy with a lineage that goes back to 1970. I'm gonna stop here, you guys, because my throat starts to hurt. I've been talking too long. And I love you guys. Stay safe out there, and be hopeful. It's challenging times right now, but maybe I shouldn't say this, because I don't know, maybe you will be watching this years from now and we'll have the whole COVID behind us, but I wanted to do it in here as some sort of part of a time capsule. So anyway, guys, we love you. Thank you so much. All the love that you show us, especially here, and we've seen so many new members, you know, joining our YouTube family, and we're so humbled by that, because we don't feel like we're doing, you know, something big here. It's just simple, humble stuff that we absolutely love from the heart, and that's why we share them. But thank you so much for choosing for our humble little channel. I know there is an ocean of amazing channels with amazing context, and you guys chose to stick also with us. Thank you so much for that. I feel like we don't say that enough. Anyway, be on the lookout for a third video, where we will be hopefully showing you guys how we'll start to actually refurbish my car, my toy, the one that I love so much. I was crazy about this toy. I was crazy about this. And not only me, I was the first kid in my neighborhood in North Africa that had this toy, this kind of toy, well made and all that. And so whenever I would bring it out, I'm not kidding you guys, I will have groups of kids around me, and also technology geeks, so older kids, and I mean older teenage kids, sometimes even the beginning of their 20s, that will also come to me. And sometimes as a kid, I did not want to give my toy away to others to play with it. Sometimes they would even beg me, please let us play with it. So this is not a toy that only brought joy to me. It also brought joy to many kids that never had the chance to get something like this, and I was happy to do it. So anyway, now I'm really babbling. I should stop. Love you guys. Thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe, share, comment, and all that. You know the drill. And we hope to see you in a different video. Take good care of yourself.